So we're a representation. We are certainly not everybody. We're not everybody that we know. We're not everybody that I know. We're simply a representation because this opportunity came up in a very hand-to-mouth kind of way. So Sheri and I felt that it was important to make sure that we at least have a representation as a start. This is part of her project entitled Baltimore Stories. This is Sheri Parks of WYPR and of the University of Maryland and of so many things.
That I stand in integrity with what I say and what I do. And that means in every awakening moment, and I want you to get this, I must be conscious of that which I'm being conscious of. The heart is more than just a tireless muscle. The research now shows is a Heart Math Institute out in California that's been studying the vibrations of the heart. The heart sees, the heart knows, and the heart feels. And your first line of defense, whenever we go through anything emotional, is the heart feels it first. Within 5 to 6 seconds, the brain responds. Is that not powerful? When I first discovered that, I realized that in every awakening moment, every pain, every feeling about the past and what happened to me, even though those things go away, but they always come back and tap you on the shoulder when you think you're managing it and you think you've gotten over it. One day it shows up and says, "But you got rid of me and I'm back." When I realized in those moments that not only was I feeling it emotionally and psychologically, that I was attacking my heart.
I spent a lot of time, like I was really, really shy growing up. And it was very easy for me I loved to be where my mother was, but it was very easy for me to be right at her side and listen while she talked. She knew a lot. And so it was very easy for me to be really, really quiet. I always loved to dance, but the first time I really ever danced and felt free dancing was we were doing a show and there was a power outage. And they said the show must go on, so the drums are going, and that was the most untethered that I had felt to that moment. That was the first time. That was a breaking point for me. That was me loving not only the freedom of going beyond, because I love the technique and I love the process and I love all of those things, that structure, that kind of in your head structure. But that was the first time that I just loved the freedom of dance.
I met her about 27 years ago when I first went to see her. She doesn't speak any English, by the way. She's Hindu. But wherever she goes, she becomes a mother of all people. So her energy is so powerful that she speaks from her heart. So when you're in her presence, her energy is so powerful. People just literally fall in her lap. The last time I went to see her a couple of years ago, now they actually have people around her to prevent people from doing that, because when you're in her presence, you feel her compassion. It's just that powerful. But I know part of the reason why my mother was like that. My mother was a saint in the tradition of the Black community.
she would have never used that word herself. She was very humble. One day I was driving home from college and there was traffic and I had second sight. And it freaked me out because I couldn't see what was in front of me. I could see the traffic ahead. And I came home and my mom was already sick at the time, so there was a caregiver with her. And I told her what had happened. She started to cry. My mother started to cry. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, because I know how dangerous this is. And she had raised me to be very rational, not to, very much in the Christian church, but also very rational. I mean, I had to have an argument for something. Why do you go over to somebody's house? You had to have a rational reason. And if you had a good enough reason, you could go. And so I was raised to be analytical. All the while, I know now, she was doing all this work in the community. And you said a minute ago about other people watching you. So I have a lot of people who were coming to me for various reasons. And one day a student came to me, I work at a university, from across campus, and she expected me to fix her problem. And I said, why did you come to me? And she said, you don't know? There's a group of Jewish mothers in New Jersey who have your name. Yeah. And my race was important. They said, there's this black woman at the University of Maryland. Kid has a problem. Go find her, and she will fix it.
In terms of my education, of how effective I became as a teacher, which became my mission. And the only thing more important that I did than my teaching work was this baby girl that I was blessed to be able to have after being told, no, you won't. And I was 37 when Zawadi was born. When I used to train teachers, I'd say the only thing more important than that is the children, that you are personally responsible for raising your own. When Vandali passed, I wrote this poem that was read at her memorial because it just flowed out of me. So I'm going to share that with you because that was my beginning of becoming so much more than I was. Way back in '65, when I was all brand new, I wanted to be a teacher, but didn't know how to do. Vandali came in and quietly watched a bit. She sized up my situation and asked me to sit. I was just amazed as I watched her take command. So well she taught a skill all could understand. She became my model, but didn't nag or preach. She was one to inspire, and she wanted me to teach. It wasn't fun and easy, how very hard I'd work. If the kids didn't get it, I'd feel an awful jerk. Then Vani would come and talk and help me to see the errors I had made, just how things should be. It isn't how hard you work, she said when she was done. But if the kid has learned that lets you know you've won, it is a special gift to be allowed to teach. You can never measure how infinite your reach. She'd set me straight, pump me up, and send me right on back. I'd try it all again and get my kids on track. She taught me about teaching and about reaching for perfection. She also taught me about myself. She taught about introspection. I was her student, whom she gave even more. She allowed me to know her. She opened up her door. She was so intelligent, with first-rate integrity, a high regard for other people, and genuine sincerity. I admired her for the union she had with her own. She knew just how she knew who she place for having done her part. She made her mark on many. There's one within my heart. When I stopped and retired at 70, it was because I could no longer hold in my head all these names. And I think names are really important. And the first time I called a child out of his name, and he corrected me, I knew I was finished.
Is important, whether you think what you're doing now or what elements are important, and how is that thing going to be experienced in the future. I think a lot about Sands Hope Dance Theater. I live in a time where many founders of organizations, arts organizations, do that thing until they can't do it anymore, and then they are only remembered by a select few. You know, the history is there, the legacy is there, but how does the art form live beyond that person? Because in reality, the only thing that is constant is change.
At that age, we used to make little kids kiss dead people to say goodbye. Say goodbye to Auntie, and you kiss her, and you turn her loose. But what also happens in the kiss is a transfer of information and abilities and spirit and all kinds of that. So after that, I became a very strange child carrying my mother's sister. And that set of abilities and that way of seeing the world. Well, my mother didn't know quite what to do with that. So what she did was, because we were very, very poor, she found other women to mentor me. So that my Girl Scout leader and my lady, the preacher's wife at the church, who when they moved, because they were A&B Zion, when they moved to East St. Louis to another church, her preacher husband had to come and pick me up along with 4 other kids, which constitute, I guess, in the 1950s, the first multicultural group I ever heard of. A Korean, an American Japanese, and another set of twins. We grew up together, particularly tenacious in terms of trying to have my attention, right? And it wasn't even somebody I was particularly attracted to, because I like, tall, dark, and handsome. All right, this was not that. But he was tenacious, and he was in the same school I was at Carnegie Mellon at that time, finishing PhD work. He was in master's school. And it hadn't happened before, but my screw cycle, I mean, we all have them, my screw cycle showed up, and it was like, okay. And he wanted to be married, so we got engaged first, because I'm Southern, and I believe you should announce these things. And screwed like rabbits, which means by the time we got married, I was pregnant. But I didn't know it, because I'm a twin carrier, and I ovulate from both sides. I didn't realize I was pregnant. So, about 4 or 5 months into the engagement, I decided I didn't like him anymore. Right? I went to the doctor, and I was explaining to the doctor, he says, well, let me give you a reason to get married. And he said, you're pregnant. I said, no, I'm not. I just had my period. He said, okay, let me prove it to you. So we got a sonogram, and there Chesia was, turning flips, having a ball, right? And I said, oh my goodness. All right, so we got married and all of that, and she came when the Dr. Jacqueline Brown predicted for her to come. She started down, but then she got nosy. She was coming down normally, and she turned herself around. Wow. Stuck her hand through my cervix and proceeded to push outward, right? Which means her umbilical cord was going to choke her, and I was going to bleed to death. Now, I'd already said I didn't want a cesarean no matter what, right? So the doctors and the nurses they're trained everything, but they can't turn her and any of that. So I said, well, just get her out. They said, we can't get her out and you live. That's not gonna work. It's either both of you live or both of you die. And I was like making my peace with both of us getting out of here and going someplace else, when her father came in and cried, and he's like, tough man person, crying, never, ever. And he said, please don't leave me here with her. Please don't leave me. I want to have a life.
This is rose quartz, right, with our theme of our roses. Yeah, this is rose quartz, and it is rose oil,
Oh yeah. Like
rounded with just a bit of Egyptian musk. So it is the day's Egyptian rose. So we have this rose that is connected to the mother of it all. Yeah?
Yeah.
And we have this quartz that has the strength that we are exuding and we are being and we are sharing as healers, helpers, spirit workers, and medicine women. And the rose to be with us at all times, to open our heart so that love can come from us and come to us.